Welcome back for another episode of Healthcare Amplified. Here is your hosts, Sabrina, John, and Zach. Thank you guys for coming back for this exciting next chapter. Now, when we're thinking about leveraging our voice for the positive changes in healthcare, we all have our reasons. Some people really do it for a business sense, and some people do it for just the heck of, well, nobody else talk about this topic. I have to be. Now, we are all very busy. No matter if you're a clinician, you are in healthcare administration, you are the backbone of workforce, or you're a caregiver. What is the reason that got you into this place? That's what we wanted to talk about. So I wanted to kick off to say, hey, Zach, share with us when you start running your podcast for all those time and then be continuously involved with the group, even your show has put on hold. What was the reason about starting that inspiration to get you started? And then what are the reasons that perhaps you're changing directions?
All right. Thank you, Sabrina. And it's good to see you again, John, and everybody out there. Thank you for listening in and watching. So the primary reason versus what my reasons end up being, to your point, Sabrina, actually were quite different. So the first episode I created and started creating, I really did it just to build credibility. As a healthcare provider, as a home healthcare provider, there's 1,000 experts to use or providers to use, and I just wanted to find ways to stand out a little differently. And so I provided it more as rich content that listeners, caregivers could listen to and get to understand some of the trials and tribulations of caregiving. But what I started realizing as I was doing the podcast is that I would get some incredible engagement and conversations started. So it's almost like when somebody would call me, instead of asking me general questions, they already picked up information from the podcast, and they actually also felt like they knew me. We were able to jump into a deeper conversation. And I think that is really the reason why I did podcasting, is so that people can start having conversations about tough topics like healthcare or like caregiving, which is a very difficult topic to have. I ended up doing only about 35 shows, but Sabrina and John, this is what blows me away. My last show was in 2019, and I continue to get 500 to 600 downloads a month. And that makes me feel good because I also wanted my show to be content like a library book. You could just pull it off the shelf and listen in and put it back. So I'm really happy with the progress that the podcast was able to do for caregivers and for home care.
Yeah, right? It's free SEO, free content, then continue to bring ideas back to you. John?
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on that because, and it's great to see you guys again as well. One of my favorite words in this space in content creation is repurpose. And I love to repurpose content because it gives you this wellspring of information that is going to meet your consumer or your listener or your viewer or your reader wherever they are. Mm-hmm. And it's the same content. And so we've had situations where we've produced a podcast and we've taken the content from that podcast, turned it into a transcription, edited it into an ebook, and pushed that out, as well as chapters of that book becoming blog posts. And different people consume that different ways. So it's not, when I first started doing it, it's like, oh, I'm just duplicating the same stuff over and over again. But then you realize how many ways people consume information and how we've even done streaming channels that like Roku and those things where it's like, that's a whole different audience than people that even watch YouTube. So repurpose is a great way and a great reason to get involved in this because it makes you ubiquitous in the space. And it also as Zach said, it makes you an expert in the field because you're everywhere and you've got your books, you've got your podcasts, you've got your blog posting, and people see that and people take notice. And then that SEO, as you also talked about, builds up your reputation as a leader in your field. And that's worth an investment of your time and money. And I'll say this too. We coach a lot of podcasters, and I'm sort of counterintuitive on that. I tell people not to do a podcast. I say, if you're busy, don't do it. If that's if you give me, hey, I'm busy, then don't do it. We're all busy. Everybody's busy, but everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. And Sabrina, I know, and Zach, I know you guys, you're doing so many things every day. I don't know. I think sometimes you guys are duplicating yourselves because you do so much in the industry, but everybody's busy. You have to make this you have to make a concerted effort and a commitment to yourself that you're going to create this content. Otherwise, you've always got that I'm too busy excuse to fall back on, and then that doesn't serve anybody.
Yeah. And adding on to that, we also know no matter what, this can be a primary focus of what you want to do to show up your authority, to show your credibility, to really also be business partnership building, B2B relationship, and also B2C, whether you interview your ideal client on your show or existing clients to give them that on-site effective coaching, healthcare advice, whatever that means for you to be the best leverage of that show. Or you can just be what John's saying. And that's another big component when I work with some of the health tech founders, that they needed to get out and to be representing their whole company as a leader themselves. And therefore, my biggest promotion, actually speak on podcasts first, because then we can control who these listeners are. If you're just going on TVs, maybe local TV, at least you know who's in your area. But once you go to state and national, you have no idea who's watching. The only thing you can say is, oh yeah, be on Fox, be on ABC. That's amazing. But it doesn't give you that solid direct impact when you wanted to talk to the specific people. Because we all know if you talk to the wrong people every day, you're not getting anywhere, right? You're not matching their interests. You're not matching their challenges. Therefore, they don't see your solution as valid. So going along that line, that's one thing I kind of had my reason combining both Zach and John's. More than 3 years ago, I launched my podcast, The Provider's Edge. First season, 100 episodes. I just did all the fun topics, personal development, mental health, all the things that we really consider to level up who we are as a practitioner. And then the second season, I pivoted because I know I wanted to be more niched to all the healthcare executive, the founder level, the leaders, the entrepreneurs. We have a different mindset. It's no longer a doer anymore, right? We're not just delivering care anymore. There's multiple hats we need to wear and knowing not to wear all the hats. So how do we really maintain that, still scaling our business, our companies? So I rechanged the direction into all those success stories and the things, the tools that people can have. So in a sense, we can pivot in our journey, and that's okay because we become more defined into who we are. And then with that, I also launched my podcast Repurpose, as what John's saying, to a TV show. And we're on Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, and you can really do a lot of things. And then I also have a whole media company just for those people who speak and who has show to say, how do you amplify? How do you repurpose all those things that make sense and doesn't seem like a duplicate? So then you can continue to grow, because organically for 3 years that I'm running my podcast by repurposing the right way, I'm able to have more than 30,000 downloads. So you can totally get to a point that you feel good about everything that you do, have the consistency, and be in a space that you're providing positive changes, positive messages versus some of the area where people just constantly talking about the issues and without the solution. So that bring up to the next point. I want to hear from John and Zach. What do you feel the sense of the media side of healthcare right now? Do we hear more of the positivity of how do we become the solution, or we're too much into there's too many challenges and kind of debate about what the challenges are?
Yeah, I think the latter is how media portrays healthcare right now. There's all these breakthroughs and things that are almost like I guess like an anomaly out there, and then we focus on all the bad stuff, the uh, the vaccines that may or may not work, the this or that. It's. I didn't know that medicine could be political, but it certainly turned into that, and unfortunately, we get mired in all of that talk that is really not productive for the promotion of healthcare when there is so much good going on in research and development, in new med tech, which you're very familiar with, and even how we take care of seniors in their homes. There's breakthroughs almost every week in better ways to monitor loved ones that may live 3,000 miles away. So there's so many good things. And I think that's the exciting part of what we're doing with Healthcare Amplified is we want to bring back and control the narrative of the healthcare space in a way that promotes all the great things and all the great people involved in the healthcare space that want to share what's going on in their worlds that are positive, that are going to make a difference. And so that's probably the most exciting thing for me as we're crafting this community and having this event in January, is that we are taking back that control of you mentioned earlier about being on ABC or Fox or whatever. When you do those things, it's usually a 3 to 4 minute segment. You're usually one of 3 or 4 guests, and they take this much of your content. Whereas creating your podcast or having other content, you can do long tailed content where you can really dive deep into specific subjects. I work with a plastic surgeon that every week he talks about the pluses and minuses of different procedures that he does, and precautionary tales and tales of triumph and all those things. And it gives you a full 360 perspective of what's going on in that. And I think we need to, and we're going to bring back that opportunity for our healthcare providers and people that are making content to tell their stories in a positive and uplifting and educational and entertaining way.
Yeah, John, let me tag on to that. You nailed it. The storytelling, I think, is the difference today, Sabrina, from negative to positive media. In the past, we relied on the news, the generations before us. In fact, just last night, I'm here visiting my mother. She's in a nursing home, and she watches the TV, and she wants me to explain to her what's going on in Russia because she's absorbing every single word that's coming out of that anchor. And I don't have the heart to tell her, well, you can't believe everything you hear. But what I have seen in the healthcare world, especially during the pandemic, when I was running a home care business, and I had over 100 families I had to take care of and 125 employees that I had to take care of. I relied on the media to keep me updated on what's going on. But I got to be honest with you, I didn't necessarily go to the people manufacturing things. I went to experts that I found credible, and I would listen to them either on YouTube or read their blogs or their interviews and get the stories from them. That's where I think trust is built. And I think that's where I believe Healthcare Amplified is going to take healthcare in a different direction. It's about building trust through engagement and storytelling. Yes, the manufacturers are always going to be doing advertisements. But I think we're getting away from that when we're doing the podcasting and the videos and the YouTubing. And I think those are storytelling. And I'm not talking about the Instagram ad that you see the guy who says he's lost thousands of pounds. I'm not talking about those kind of videos. I'm talking about the person who gets on and tells their story and gives both sides of it. And I think, Sabrina, you bring up a great point. You know, it's hard to sort through the negative and the positive and how to deal with that with our emotions. My feeling, my experience is that we have to make our own decisions, but we should base it on both emotional as well as intelligent decisions, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, perfectly said. And I think sometimes people mistaking what healthcare truly means. Healthcare is not just the disease treatment, identifying what's problem, but actually so much on prevention. Why do we have so many technologies on wearables, tracking? It's all about how do we keep people safe? Or when we know they're on the path of diagnosis, how do we slow down that prognosis? And it's not just that, right? There's a wellness part to it. There are also other division of healthcare like functional medicine, acupuncture, chiropractic, physical therapy, all these slew of things. And the big topic in mental health for caregivers, for workers in the healthcare domain, and just everyday people who need support. So we really need to diversify our thinking and redefine what health care means. And that also brings into a great point of, we all know by study, social psychology show us we can only connect truly 150 people at a time. And that's why when you think about 150, your inner circle is probably only 50. And then Jim Rohn also have the quote to say, you're the 5 people that you're most connect with, right? Our surface sphere of influence really determine who we are. That's why we have Healthcare Amplify Collective, the place where you can get all the answers that you need from being creative, get supported on who you are, your individual, your passion, your true purpose in this healthcare domain. So along with our summit, which we encourage all you guys to attend, or you would love to contribute as a speaker, sponsor, a referral partner, love to have you in our monthly brainstorming friend working space that's happening every first Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, and for you to really think about all the other benefit that we're bringing to the table as a all-in-one marketing solution for you, so you can actually keep everything together, make sure everything is effective, efficient, connect with your audience, your clients, and it is definitely HIPAA compliant. And we're going to have the networking event sharing your work on our podcast, on all the media TV features that we have. You're going to have tickets to go to future events that we're hosting, and we're going to have hybrid events in the future as well. And we're also going to bring sponsorship to your show because we value your content. And another way to monetize, we're going to turn it into continued education sessions. People listening to your show already, why not adding even additional benefit to help them to gain and through the different lesson that you already provided. And then for those people who wanted to just do the fun thing, record your shows and then magically publish everywhere, we can also take over the complete production and media marketing access for you. So we can be your complete solution as a healthcare creative to really truly represent you, your message, your movement to accelerate everything that you do. Before we wrap up, I would love to hear Zach and John, what are some of your message you want to share before we end today's episode?
Mine's simple and easy. I hope we see you at the first time, at our very first Healthcare Amplified Summit, January 25th in Orlando, where we will get to learn from each other, get to build off each other, and build our an excellent community. So that's what I hope. That's my message. Be there. Hope to see you there.
Yeah, I really can't add much to that. We really want to build this engaged community of healthcare members that have that creative streak and want to create their own podcast. So whether you've been doing that for 10 years or you're just curious, I think those that are just looking are as important as anybody, because you're going to be the future of this space. And so, yes, January 25th, that's a Thursday, Orlando, Florida. Please join us for the first ever Healthcare Amplified Summit. Can't wait.
Amazing. Thank you guys for joining us. Thanks, John and Zach, to contributing your amazing knowledge, your support for this whole movement. And thanks for everyone who's watching and listening for participating. And then we can't wait to hear from you and to see you in person.
Come join us on Thursday, January 25th in Orlando for the first ever Healthcare Amplified Summit as part of the 10th anniversary of the PodFest Multimedia Expo. You'll hear from amazing healthcare content creators from around the globe, engage in multiple networking, or as we call them, friend-working events, and collaborate with like-minded healthcare content creators. Experience this and a whole lot more. To register, go to our website at healthcareamplified.org, and we'll see you in Orlando.